Okay, let's get going. I um I first just wanted to welcome everyone to our event today. Thank you so much for coming. For everyone who is on Zoom as an attendee, I just want to point out that we do have the Q&A function available. And after each of our presenters speak, we will have a Q&A at the end. So as we go, definitely pop your questions into that Q&A function, and we are excited to have a robust discussion over the course of the next 45 or so minutes. My name is Emily Kowalski, and I am the Outreach and Engagement Manager with Environment Illinois, a policy and action group that works for clean air, clean water, wildlife and open spaces, and a livable climate. We envision a greener Illinois, one that protects more places where nature can thrive and offers us and our children a greater opportunity to live healthier, more enriching lives. Again, I just want to thank you all so much for joining us today for Refill, Return, Reimagine. And I'm really excited to be joined by our two presenters, Caitlin of Flourish Juice Company and Kelly of the Refilleri, for a discussion of how returnable, refillable, and plastic-free packaging can help us get closer to a zero waste future. I'm going to start today's discussion with some background from a recent report that Environment Illinois released with our national partners. And then I'll turn it over to Caitlin and Kelly to share more about their businesses and why they have chosen to help us envision a zero waste future. So Maggie, if you want to throw up our slides, we can get started. So, like I said, Environment Illinois, along with our national partners, Environment America and PERG, released a report a few months ago called Refill, Return, Reimagine, Innovative Solutions to Reduce Wasteful Packaging. And I just want to share some of the things that we found in this report. You can go to the next slide. You all are probably here because you already know a lot about the plastic pollution problem. But I want to start by taking a step back and reminding us why this is a problem and what we can do about it. Because the world does have a plastics problem, and it's getting worse. Plastic has been found on the tallest mountaintops, in the deepest trenches of our ocean, and inside our own bodies. Every 15 and a half hours, Americans throw out enough plastic to fill the largest NFL stadium. That's a huge amount of plastic. And here close to home, an estimated 22 million pounds of plastic enter the Great Lakes each year. And plastic doesn't biodegrade. It breaks down into smaller pieces that persist and pollute our soil, water, and environment. That plastic waste harms wildlife who may mistake it for food and end up starving. And it's been found that even small pieces of plastic have been shown to alter the behavior and metabolism of fish. Far too much of this plastic waste comes from things that we use for just a few minutes, like plastic packaging. And in fact, roughly 36% of all global plastic production is used for packaging. We need to stop this stream of plastic waste. You can go to the next slide. We have a vision of America moving towards an economic system that's characterized by zero waste. A generation of new businesses in the retail and food service industries are working to tackle the root causes of plastic waste by creating business models that minimize the use of single-use plastic packaging or eliminate it altogether. And that's what our report and this event today are looking at. The first type that I want to talk about is returnable packaging. These are businesses that package products in containers designed to be sent back and reused after being cleaned. By returning and reusing packaging, we extend the life of these materials and reduce the need to create new packaging and extract more. We're going to hear from Caitlin at Flourish Juice Company, who's here today, who's going to share a bit about their returnable packaging system. The next type of business that I want to highlight is refill stores. Refillables allow customers to bring their own containers and allow them to take as much or as little as they need. Consumers can reuse their own containers. And again, this type of model can help ensure that packaging is used over and over again and is not just for one single use for a few minutes. This type of model is found at specialty refill stores, but can also be found in the bulk section of many grocery stores and other types of businesses. We're going to hear in a bit from Kelly from the Refilleri about a refill-focused store here in Illinois. And the last type of business that I wanted to highlight is businesses that are rethinking the products, the items themselves. More and more businesses are redesigning products that have traditionally been sold in single-use plastic packaging so that they don't need to have that single-use plastic associated with them. Solid versions of traditionally liquid products are becoming more and more common. Solid shampoo bars, or solid or powdered toothpaste, bar versions of stain removers. These solid products are able to be packaged in reusable, recyclable, or compostable packaging and cut out the need for single-use plastics. These types of businesses are continuing to innovate and expand, but there is more that we can and need to do to help us get closer to a zero waste future. Federal, state, and local governments can enact policies and programs that incentivize shifting to a circular or closed loop economy in which less is consumed and all materials are reused, recycled, and composted in a continuous cycle. Some of the specific types of policies that governments can consider include enacting bans on single-use plastics, getting rid of unnecessary single-use plastic packaging, like the polystyrene foam foodware ban that is currently being considered here in the state of Illinois. Governments can also create producer responsibility programs where producers have to be responsible for the waste that they create. Governments can provide financial support in the form of grants, rebates, tax incentives to businesses that are seeking to develop or implement low and zero plastic business models. Governments can also help ensure that health regulations regarding bulk foods and bulk retail stores allow for clearly defined standards and help to encourage more of these sorts of stores in our communities. And you all as consumers can also help to support these sorts of businesses. Um, as a consumer, Maggie, if you want to go to the next slide, you can check out your own local zero waste store. You can research businesses that are using returnable or refillable packaging in your community and help to support those local entrepreneurs. And you also should check out our report at our website, environmentillinois.org/refill, and share what you learned during today's discussion with your friends and neighbors. The more of us who are thinking about what a zero waste future for our world could be and how to make that a reality, the more we as a community can tackle the plastic pollution problem and protect ourselves, our wildlife, and our environment. So thank you again so much for being here. I am going to hand it off to Caitlin from Flourish Juice Company, who's going to tell us a little bit about what they're up to with returnable packaging.
Thank you, Emily. Hi, everybody. Emily and Environment Illinois, thank you guys so much for all that you do. I commend you and I respect all that you do. So I'm actually at our shop right now. We're inside of a gym and we've been here since 2016. So we've been doing this for a little while. I'm going to give you just a tour. I think it'll be fun for you to see what we've got going on. So I'm going to turn you around. So COVID has obviously changed the way people shop and how people do things. So these refrigerators became our storefront. Over here, we used to have a nice little lock-up counter and COVID sort of blew it to pieces. So our goal for the bottles being returned is people can either come up here and shop as is, so kind of browse around in here and take something to go that way, or we have people who get orders online. So they'll have a subscription, they do one order at a time if they want. And the goal is for them to bring their bottles back here for our return station. So they come in here and then they can bring their bottles back, whatever works for them. They can use cardboard. They can just put it right in the bins. We have people who reuse the bags that their orders come in. And this is a more elaborate version of bottle returns. So there are actually I sent some pictures over to Environment Illinois with other slides of these refrigerators in different locations. You can start simple. We've got a refrigerator inside of Ulta Beauty headquarters, and it's super simple. It's this cute little crate system. It's got a 3-tier crate system, and they just do the same thing. They just bring bottles back, and then we give people discounts. So whenever they return bottles, we give them a coupon code. They can use it right here on the refrigerators. They can use it online. And we're upcoming on 60,000 bottles so far that have been returned because we track metrics. That's important if you're going to do something like this. And I think that's really cool. It's not perfect. We've tried lots of different caps. We've tried lots of different compostable versions of everything. And there's always 3 parts. So it's you as a business who wants to do something the best way, but it might not be the most practical way. For example, I had these like biodegradable cork caps for all these bottles at one point. It was a mess. It was terrible. Customers would spill things. They hated it. And then we tried to do aluminum because we knew, okay, that's a little bit better. That got all rusty and the health department didn't like that. So it's you, the consumer, and the governing bodies. So there's a fine balance, I think, between everything, and it's trial and error. Try something, see if it works, come back, do it again. And educate. So this took a long time. We've been here since 2016, and I've seen bottles come back from 2016, which is really cool. And you can tell based on the manufacturer of the bottle. And I think it's just continuing education, helping people figure out, how do I do this? We'll still have people at our main shop kind of come around the front and put bottles in weird spots, like in front of the door and like on tables. So it just constant education, get it out there and start with something. It doesn't have to be perfect. we started with a very sad looking little crate and a handwritten like bottle return sign. So, and it grew to this so far, and then other locations that have different return stations. So start small and then you can build from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing and for, helping to educate and bring this returnable packaging system to lots of folks. Next up, I'm going to hand it over to Kelly of the Refilleri to talk a little bit about the Refilleri and what you all do.
Sure. Thank you so much, Emily. I do have some slides. Let's see if I can. Maybe I can't share them.
Give me just one sec.
Oh yeah,
I
sure.
can
No
definitely
worries.
make it so that you can share them. Let me
Let me see if my tech knowledge here, if I can figure out how to use screen sharing.
You should be able to now.
Okay. And whoop. Over. Can you see my proper screen? I guess I will ask. Okay, awesome. So I'm Kelly. I own the Refilleri, which is a refill store in Humboldt Park. We're in Chicago, in one of the neighborhoods. It's great. They asked me to do a little bit of intro on what we're doing and what we're doing over at the Refilleri, and a little bit about myself, just to give you guys a little bit of background on me and kind of how the Refilleri came to be. These are just some fun facts. I love wine. I love traveling. I love traveling to places to drink wine. I have 2 kids. They're pictured here. They are a little bit older. Probably need to update this slide as my intro slide. My daughter is now 2 and Ben is 5. So this is slightly out of date, but yeah. Other things, I own the Refilleri, as I said. I have a day job also. I am a cartographer. You know what that is. I work for a digital mapping company in the city as well. So my other fun fact is I like maps. I call myself an amateur Captain Planet because, well, we all like to save the planet, but professional Captain Planeting is really reserved for one gentleman, with a red cape. I like to live a low waste lifestyle because as much as we all try to be zero waste, I think it's very hard, right? So I think it's good to set achievable goals and say that we try to reduce our waste as much as possible. And I guess just, to highlight on what you guys were talking about with zero waste, like, why do we need to do it, right? And these are some of the quotes that I think are just like they hit home, right? Like, we don't need everybody to be completely zero waste. We need people to be doing small things, like reducing the amount of plastic that we're using. And I love the second quote of like, it's only one plastic blank, insert there, right? Like plastic bottle filled with juice, right? Or plastic straw that you put in your container. And then you multiply that by 8 billion. And then suddenly you have this crazy plastic crisis that we find ourselves in there right now, right? So how did I get towards, owning the Refilleri, opening a refill store? Maybe sure you're all sitting there wondering, asking yourself as to how I came from making maps to opening a Refilleri. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and my family was very eco-friendly, kind of unintentionally, I like to call it. We did a lot of like sustainable things without even realizing it, right? It was just, we grew up, it was a rural area. My parents had a huge garden, so we grew our own produce. Like my mom used to hang her clothes on the clothesline to dry rather than using the dryer, this kind of thing. So I think that was just like instilled in me as a kid. And as I grew more into an adult and started, making my own choices, I got into composting because I think that's really fun and interesting. And in the city, we have some great services that provide compost service. If you, don't want to do the mixing and the container and stuff in your backyard, especially if you live in an urban area and don't have space for that. I did the Chicago Conservation Corps training years ago. This kind of, if you guys are familiar, it's amazing. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. It's like a 6 or 8 week program. Every week you go in and they cover a variety of topics, and it's just everything from recycling to, food waste, like how to compost, all this stuff. It's great. Really opened my eyes though, even as an adult, to like things I wasn't even aware of, being kind of an eco-minded person. And I call myself a recovering recycler because, as we've all been talking about, like, plastic is a problem, right? Like we can't rely on our recycling systems anymore to do that. And it is hard. It's very hard to be low waste, right? So this was like what turned the point for me. And this is just, we don't need to get into all of this, but like the biggest thing that stood out for me was, and this was what year, 2018, there was a study that came out from the Better Government Association. You guys may be familiar with this, that highlighted how bad our recycling was. And at the time it was like 9% of what you put in there actually gets recycled, right? And that was like, turned a light bulb on in my head where I was like, we like this, like it's a waste. It's like, we're putting it in there, it's not getting recycled, right? I was like, we have to do more. Like this, as a longtime recycler, I was almost offended, you know, of like, what do you mean it's not getting recycled? And a lot of that was just, you know, doing my own research too, of things like plastic is a problem, because even if it gets recycled, right, we can only recycle it maybe once, you know, maybe twice. Like the materials start to degrade to a point where we can't use them again anyway, right? So we got to do more. We have to change. We have to not use plastic, right? It's the biggest thing. And so, you know, I was going on my own kind of journey to say like, all right, how can I use less plastic? How can I reduce my waste in life? And which brought about the Refilleri. This is a long time coming. I probably have been talking to my husband about opening a refill store for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And, you know, finally, like everyone in COVID, I had this dawning of like, what am I waiting for? You know, gotta get out there. I want to bring low waste solutions to people, right? I think it's hard, you know, when you want to reduce your plastic waste and you're trying to look at alternative solutions. You know, like shampoo bars, as you used Emily as an example, which is awesome, right? But maybe you have to go to a website to buy your shampoo bar, and then you have to go to a different website because you want to get your, you know, bamboo toilet paper from. And then you want to go to a different website because you need to buy your compostable plastic bags on them or whatever, right? So what I thought was like, what if we made it easy for people? You know, I think most people will do things and be environmental or sustainable if you can make it accessible and make it easy for them to do, right? So I wanted to have a store where you could just come in and do all of your things without having to do the research behind it, having to go to a bunch of different, you know, websites or stores to get stuff delivered to you, which, you know, by nature kind of isn't that sustainable anyway. So and our mission statement about us is that we work to reduce waste. Specifically, we're trying to combat single-use plastic waste. And we offer refill solutions, which you guys saw in the photos. We have this big refill bar where you can bring your container, fill it back up. You can bring in any kind of container you like. We have containers there as well if you forgot yours and you want to take home some dish soap that day. We also offer easy access to things like shampoo bars, so stuff that comes in either a compostable package or package free, or things that are reusable, right? So we can also, you know, make things that are reusable, like reusable paper towels, right? So maybe we don't want to buy paper towels because we don't want to cut the trees down, so we buy reusable ones. We also do a lot of workshops to educate the public. We like to be out there in the community, trying to get people more involved and more engaged. Events like this, we love to take part in and spread the good word about plastic-free living. And to be honest, so I say it started with wine, because my vision when I first started the Refilleri was I wanted to have like refillable wine. You know, you could bring your wine bottle in, fill it up, get your wine for the week, you know. And that's how everything should start, right? Over a nice glass of wine, thinking about how you could reduce your wine bottle waste. And I added here, and I can send you guys these slides. Here's some like awesome resources. So there are other zero waste stores in Chicago. There's like 3 of us, which is, we're gaining traction, you know, we're slowly getting more refill and zero waste stores around. And if you're in the Chicago area, check one of these out. We also have some awesome like compost services, like I mentioned, which helps, you know, if you live in an urban environment, you don't necessarily have the land or space to do composting. These guys can make it very easy for you. And just some other resources, which again, I can send over to you guys. And yeah, that is all I have. Come visit us at the Refilleri if you're in the neighborhood. We'd love to have you. See if I can.
Awesome. Great. Thank you both so much for sharing. I want to give a quick shout out before we go to the Q&A to Maggie, who is also on the webinar, who helped to organize this event, an intern this summer with Environment Illinois. Thank you, Maggie, for bringing all of us together to have this discussion about reducing our single-use plastic packaging. So next up, we wanted to actually just have a chance for Q&A. I am, if folks have questions for any of us, please put them in the Q&A function in Zoom. But I'm gonna start with my question, which is, I mean, I have a lot of questions, but my first question is, just what is the kind of number one misconception, or what's the myth out there, with consumers and the public that you guys want to, you guys try to debunk when interacting with the public? And Caitlin, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can start. I just want to say it's really not that hard. You just start with small steps. I mean, even you don't have to come into our stores, even just bring your reusable bag with you, keep it in the car, something like that. Because the amount of plastic bags that I still see when people are shopping is mind-boggling. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, nobody has that much dog poop at home where you need hundreds and thousands of plastic bags, like just wrapped up. I just think that's sort of, it's something that's just like ingrained in us. Like my mom always had bags, my grandma had bags. It's like you just shove these bags in here, like we don't need that. So I think just try it before saying, okay, this is impossible, or I can never drink out of glass, or I can't get away from drinking bottled water. It tastes better. There are so many things you can do. Just start somewhere.
That's awesome advice for all of us. I think in all parts of our life, we should just all start somewhere. Kelly, is there a myth or something out there that you would like to try to
Yeah,
debunk?
I mean, I think just like you said, Caitlin, like, get your water bottle, right? Fill it out. I mean, it's like you said, very small changes are super attainable, right, to do, right? And just pick one thing. Say like, next time my shampoo runs out, I'm going to try a shampoo bar, right? I mean, that's like super simple, super accessible. And I think the biggest thing I always preach to people, and I know I already talked about this, but like recycling is not, it's almost a myth, right? And especially like unless we like can move to a better municipal system for it, it's just not there, right? And so, we can't rely on that as our solution anymore. So I think it shouldn't be like reduce, reuse, recycle. It should be reduce, reuse, refill, right? That should be the new mantra. I know you agree, Caitlin, obviously.
Well, hopefully most of us here agree. And yeah, unfortunately, while there are certain types of recycling that are recycling, plastics recycling is not true recycling. And that when so many of us have spent our lives hearing that recycling is the answer, it can be really challenging for us to reorient the way that we think about using our materials in the world. And the more that we can all share with our family and friends what we know, and also share our own stories about using lower waste or zero waste products, the better off we'll be. I know a few years ago, my family, there was like a run on shampoo bars in my family, and everyone was giving everyone else shampoo bars for every event where you might give someone a gift. And it was quite a fun time for someone like me who has always tried to get rid of some of the plastic in my life.
It's a great stocking stuffer, guys. Shampoo bars, they fit right in there,
Great. Well, my next question for both of you is just what are there things that you would like our elected officials or members of government, whether they be local, state, or federal government, are there things that you think they all should be doing to help support more businesses like yours so that we can have more zero waste stores, so that that list isn't quite so small, and more businesses that are, getting packaging back from the customers, so that it becomes habit where we all are, returning the bottles, and it is just a natural part of all of our lives. Anyone have particular things that you would like our elected officials to be thinking about when passing policies? Yeah, Kelly.
I mean, number one, I think, as Caitlin pointed out, like plastic bags in the grocery store, like, why do we still offer those? Like, they should be that shouldn't even be an option anymore, right? Like they should take action on specific things like that of saying, like, no, you can't do that anymore. Or like, no, stop offering, straws. Like, like there are countries in the world who do things like this, right? Like plastic bags are not available in like Sweden or other places that are very environmental. So, why can't we do stuff like that? As far as business owners, I mean, some of the stuff I think they could offer is like tax incentives or things, like environmental businesses, especially retail, are just lumped in like general retail. We don't get our own category to be like, oh, you're out there doing the good work and doing the good fight, right? And it would be nice, like that could be something that they would consider as like maybe as an environmental sustainable organization. Maybe you could get some kind of certification that then allows you to get different tax breaks because you're trying to combat plastic waste, or you're taking steps to use refillable items or reusable items. I think that would be great.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. And I think they just need to care more instead of just, hot air all the time where we love the environment. No, like show us, show businesses, show consumers, like do something, act on it. I would love a grant. That would help a lot. If we had a special category for us doing nice things, I'm sure more businesses would be able to be truly sustainable if we had funds for it instead of funding businesses that are already just trashing the planet. They don't need any more money. So stop supporting them. I think that would be great, but they have to care and want to do it and maybe make a little less money. So we'll see.
Yeah. And like you said, specific grant programs for environmental businesses would be nice, right? Because, again, we're just kind of, we're looking for grants or something. It's just, you're applying with all the other businesses that are, again, lumped into general retail or food service or whatever, right? There's no specific category that kind of rewards those people who are trying to, take on the environmental consequences and issues that we have. So,
yep.
I'd give you a grant, Caitlin, if it were up to me. Don't worry.
Thank you. I give you one too.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll just swap. It'd be great.
We got a couple of questions in the Q&A about cost. And so I'd love for each of you to speak a little bit about, the cost question and what that means for consumers' pocketbooks.
You want me to go first?
That sounds great.
Yeah. So these plastic bottles, well, our old bottles they've all been glass, but the plastic bottles over the last 4 years, I know have gone up significantly, especially after COVID. And it's interesting because I price compare all the time. And for the last like 2 years now, we had to adjust. So it was not good for consumers. It was not good for us. These glass bottles, they used to be 16 ounces. They went up to almost $3 a bottle with shipping. But you just do research and you find ways around it. So I spent probably 6 hours looking to see, okay, what can we do, doing surveys. So we did a smaller bottle because that's what customers were asking for. And the price dropped on that. And I found a bottle that's pretty affordable. It's like 46 cents with shipping. And then we save all that money. We save hundreds and thousands of dollars when all those bottles come back. And then as I look at glass too, or plastic, it's the same. Like the prices are almost the same for what we do in our industry. We like to have this sort of like sleek looking product, and the bottles there, even for plastic, are like almost approaching like 40 cents for nicer bottles for people in our industry. So it's really not that much of a difference. And as far as savings goes, we tracked one of our guys he was a subscription person. We always give those people 10% off, which anytime people see 10%, they're like, I'm in, let's do it. And they get to be eco-friendly. So we tracked him for a year and he saved almost $300 just because he would bring them back and he would take his to go. He would bring them back, take the ones to go. So I just feel like people need to understand that it's really not as expensive, maybe at face value, but once you look into it and you do some metrics on it, it's good. People can afford it.
Yeah, and we
add real quick. Sorry, I'm gonna add this quick because it drives me nuts too. If people can spend $40+ at Starbucks each week getting all that plastic stuff, there is no reason why they can't afford. People usually come once a week or twice a week that they can't afford a healthy bottle of juice packed full of nutrients. I think it's an excuse for some people too, but that's just me. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, I feel like the environmental community, including all of you all as environmental businesses and us as advocates, can do so much more to elevate the stories and those metrics that you were talking about of the affordability and, the value of bringing back the bottles, and by having this system for both the consumer's pocketbook and for our environment, it can be a win-win. And I think there's a lot more that we can do to continue to spread that word, because that is certainly a misconception out there. Kelly, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to the price question for refill stores specifically.
Yeah, we do everything we possibly can to keep prices low for people. We want that experience where you say like, oh, this was the same price I would spend at Target on a bottle of body wash as I would here, right? Because there's two demographics of people. There's the ones who are like all of us, environmental crusaders, who are like, it's fine, I'll spend a couple more cents, to get the refill product, get rid of the plastic container, that kind of thing. And we have the other bucket of people who are kind of like, well, I'll do it if it's like economically feasible, right? So, we really try to keep everything kind of on the normal price point. I'm constantly, same as you, Caitlin, I'm constantly looking for like, hey, can we try out this soap? Maybe it's a little bit cheaper. It's a couple cents cheaper for people. Let's see if people like it. Let's try it out. Let's test it. And, a lot of the feedback that we get for the most part is that, most of our stuff is on par, like maybe it's like a tiny bit more expensive than going to Jewel or whatever to buy it. But for the most part, it's pretty normalized. And the other feedback that we get, which this is actually interesting, is, for example, we tried out a lower, like a price or a less pricey version of our body wash, and people complained. They were like, we don't like it. Like, it's not as good. So it almost, we switched back to the other one because it's like, seemed as though people were willing to pay a tiny bit more for a better product. Right. So, it's kind of finding that balance, but yeah, we're constantly trying to do that, trying to keep our prices down. It's tough. We only work with small businesses for the most part. So, if they have to raise their prices, unfortunately we do too, but that's just kind of the nature of the business. But, it's getting better. There are also more companies out there doing the like closed loop economy and the closed loop return. So it gives us more choices, to select from and have more options to keep the prices low. So, it's a struggle, but we're working through it.
And
we also offer, actually, I would say we do as well. Like we have bottles you can buy, and if the same as you, Caitlin, if you bring them back and fill them up, we give people 15% off the refill to kind of encourage people to do it. And like you said, like, you give them 15% off. They're like, yeah, this is great. Get very excited about any kind of discount. So,
Yeah. And then also, as we have more of those incentives for more businesses like this, the market forces will also change, and can help to make sure, like, make these, continue to make them more affordable. Excuse me. And as we, shift economy wide towards these lower waste and zero waste options, we'll see things change. That is what we've experienced in lots of other changes that we've made, including in places like in states that have done things like banned polystyrene foam. The market forces have changed what the alternatives cost for restaurants and other businesses. And I expect that we would see similar forces impact when we have even more refill and returnable and low and zero waste packaged products. Well, we did get a question in the chat about some of the Illinois laws regarding plastic. And so I wanted to just take a minute to expand a little bit about what I had touched on earlier. So there's a lot of movement on plastic here in Illinois. We being on the coast of Lake Michigan, know that the plastic pollution problem is a big problem, and are, seeing our state legislators start to take action. Um, there is a coalition here in the state called the Coalition for Plastic Reduction that is a set of environmental and community organizations and institutions, as well as some businesses, including several zero waste shops and other small businesses that have returnable or refillable systems, that has been working to pass policies that in particular will ban some of the worst kinds of single-use plastic packaging and items. We've been particularly focused on polystyrene foam, commonly referred to as styrofoam, the cups and takeout containers that we know are just not necessary in 2024, where we have alternatives, and we know that those plastic foam containers are particularly harmful to our environment and our water and persist for potentially hundreds of years. We recently were successful in getting the state legislature to pass a bill that means that state agencies will no longer have plastic foam, which will go into effect soon. But there is a live bill that is currently under consideration that would extend that statewide. We as a coalition have decided to start with getting rid of some of these worst kinds of plastic, but we know that the plastic pollution problem is massive, and there are a lot more pieces to take on, including that producer responsibility that I mentioned, as well as other types of single-use plastic like plastic bags. So if anyone is interested in hearing more about those policies or the work of the Coalition for Plastic Reduction, definitely reach out to me. I'll make sure to put my email in the chat in case anyone would like to get involved, because we know that we're going up against big opposition when it comes to plastic waste. Big industry is fighting plastic reduction policies nationwide. But we have an opportunity to do a lot here in Illinois, but it is going to take every single one of us making the individual choices in our own lives and working together to advocate for policy changes at the state and as well as at the national level, and with big corporations who can also take action to reduce their single-use plastic waste. So I wanted to wrap us up with one last question, which is, Jenna had put this in the Q&A about next steps or hopes for the future. And I want to expand a little bit beyond that of, what are you each looking, what does the future look like for your businesses, but also what do you hope the future looks like for refillable, returnable packaging, and for getting us closer to a zero waste future. And Caitlin, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think the education part is huge. What you guys do and what we have to do every day. I mean, we've been educating people every day, and I know it can get exhausting, but education, showing them examples, real life things instead of just everything's so virtual. It's just helpful to bring people back in person again, and just show them that there is a good future. It's no longer a hoax anymore, that climate change is not a thing, So I think more and more people, as they understand that and they feel effects of it, they'll be a little bit more inclined to care a little bit more, especially if they've got all of us backing it up, showing them, giving them examples, how to live their daily lives, things like that. And as far as Flourish, I just hope we continue to keep on flourishing and doing a sustainable version of growth and outreach and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Kelly?
I hope we keep on flourishing. It's perfect. It's great. Should be always your tagline. Yeah, one thing we want to do is, I always say we need a refill store in every corner, right? Like that should be your mini mart. They should have a refill station, and I don't mean that we're going to open a refillery on every corner because it's probably not in the cards in my lifetime. But what we want to do and what we're starting to work on is trying to partner with other local small like retail businesses and set up kind of a refill, like a small refill stand in their store, right? So people could get like basic things like dish soap, hand soap, laundry detergent, like our biggest sellers. And then you could have it closer to you, right? Because that's the biggest thing is like it needs to be convenient. So, maybe you can't make it to our store because you don't live in Humboldt Park. So, if we could get kind of outposts for people other places and that makes it more accessible for people, that's an initiative we're trying to do. Just kind of expanding the reach, getting more stuff out there, getting it to people, making it easy for them is the ultimate goal.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for participating today. I was really inspired hearing, about what you all are doing, and your hopes for the future. And I hope that everyone else who is here today was equally inspired. Folks can definitely reach out to me if you have any questions or want to stay in touch about any of the work that Environment Illinois is doing, or the work of the Coalition for Plastic Reduction. And if we did not get a chance to answer your question in the Q&A, feel free to send me a note and we can be sure I can connect you with the appropriate person to get you an answer. Thanks again for everyone for joining. I hope everyone has a great rest of your Friday, and get to enjoy taking a shower with maybe a shampoo bar soon. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much for putting this together. It was lovely.
Bye.